Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our SBIR overview. Our host today is Lou Farina. He is a business analyst with the Maricopa Small Business Development Center, and he specializes in our tech industries here in the Valley. So Lou, I am going to hand it over to you. And just let me know if you will put your questions in the chat. We will be taking pauses at the end of every section so that we can go ahead and get those questions answered for you. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. This is Lou Farina from the SBDC. Thanks for joining us this morning. We've got a couple of additional presenters besides myself. I think it's going to be an interesting webinar for those of you who are interested in SBIRs. I'm going to share my screen at this point. And let's see. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Are we good? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Hang on 1 second here. Okay. So again, welcome to this our webinar this morning, brought to you by the SBDC. We're going to talk about SBIRs and how they impact the startup community. This is, the SBIRs are referred to as America's Seed Fund today. So before I introduce myself more formally and my other guests, or other presenters, I'll just tell you a little bit about what we're going to cover today. As everybody knows, fundraising, if you're doing a startup, fundraising is really challenging. I don't have to tell you that. And one of the things that you'll hear more about, but it's the SBIR/STTR program, and I'll just typically refer to it as SBIR to shorten it. It's really the nation's largest source of early stage high risk funding for startups and small businesses. There's multiple $1 billion. I think Bob will cover that in his presentation, but it's a very large pot of money available. So today, what we're going to talk about is that I'm going to just do an introduction about the startup landscape and with respect to capital, kind of where this SBIR fits. Then I'm going to turn over to Bob. Bob is going to give you a good overview of the SBIR program, as well as Apex, which is his organization. And then we have Jada, and I'll introduce these two more formally here next. But Jada is from the ACA, and she's going to talk about the ACA's FAST grant and some of the state initiatives around that grant. And then we're going to come back to me, and we're going to talk about commercialization, because that's a piece of this. It's what differentiates SBIRs from other grants per se. So this is me. I am a business analyst with Maricopa Center, the SBDC. I specialize, as Karen said, in early stage tech businesses. I've come from a corporate venture background. I do a lot of work on SBIRs because they kind of fit into the landscape of early stage funding for these tech companies. And I'm also a reviewer for the National Science Foundation, which is all peer reviewed. And we're going to have Bob Mucci. Bob works for the Arizona Apex Accelerator. For those of you who remember PTAC, it's now rebranded as Apex. And Bob is really considered one of the state's subject matter experts on SBIRs and STTR applications. He's worked with the University of Arizona, CEI, and other various organizations regarding SBIRs, and lots of clients here in the state. And here is Jada. Jada is from the ACA. She's a research program coordinator, and she works with small businesses and grants to enhance economic growth. And her role includes SBIR subject matter, including STTRs as well, and the ACA FAST grant. So we will hear from those two in depth. But right now, I'm going to give you just an infomercial for the SBDC. For those of you who don't know who we are a national program. We are not the government. We actually have a grant that comes from the federal government through the SBA. That grant comes through Maricopa Community College District. where it's matched with some state funds. And therefore, that allows us to provide no fee advising services to our clients. The SBDC program is a nationwide program. Matter of fact, I just got back from a national conference. So there's one in every state. So it's geographically based. And we have an Arizona state office, and we break our geography down to 10 different centers. So if you need assistance in Flagstaff or in Show Low or in Yuma or in Tucson, etc., Prescott, we've got offices and resources there for those local companies. We do a lot of lender readiness preparation for commercial loans. I don't per se, I do more equity, but we've got some ex-bankers on staff to help with loan prep. We've got all kinds of different expertise in financial review and marketing, manufacturing to a certain extent, and we talked about commercialization technology. We've got some specific expertise in export and international trade. Our government contracting really is handled by Apex. They are kind of our sister organization. And we did a lot of disaster loan assistance during the pandemic. So that's who we are. We do one-on-one counseling, which is it's a relationship with a counselor. It's a lot. Typically, the longer term relationships are the better for both the counselor and the clients. We have some training. This is considered training, and we have some tools and resources that are available, no fee, to our clients when they work with us. So if you're interested, you go to MaricopaSBDChere.com and you can register for services. So that being said, I am just going to give you just a brief overview on startup capital. Let any maybe pause for questions. Anything? Questions? SBDC? Anything? I'm assuming nothing.
There are no questions yet.
Okay, good. I'll just move on then. Okay, so in the startup capital landscape, you've got a couple options, and typically what drives it are either debt capital or equity capital. Equity would be an investor who takes a piece of your business. Debt is going to a bank. And then there's grants, and grants can help. In the context of small businesses, starting a business, you typically can't start a business on a grant. You're going to need some other kind of capital, but there are grants available. And SBIR is a specialized type of grant. It's actually a significant dollar amount. We'll talk more about that can really help some tech companies early stage. So let's see. Sorry. So with regard to startup capital, anybody who's done this before will tell you the first capital in is the trickiest and most difficult. There's really a lot of competition for limited sources of funding. So it's a very competitive environment. And you always hear the stories about these serial entrepreneurs or these entrepreneurs that walk into a coffee shop and come out with, $9 million commitment for their startup. And the fact of the matter is that does happen infrequently, but it's really those serial entrepreneurs. So if you've done this before and you've had what we call an exit or two, you've created value for your investors, it's a lot easier to get money. So, but most of us, vast majority of us, have not done this before. We're on our first or our second, and so it becomes very competitive. Let's just talk about debt real quick, because there are some programs that talk about startup capital and debt. The thing about debt is lenders, bankers, my friends, are very risk averse, and so it's really difficult to get a bank loan for companies that don't have a financial track record. So they're always looking, hey, give me 2 years of financials. That's typically the first ask, but there are multiple decision factors that go into it, and there is a possibility that you could get a startup loan. Things that they'll look at is experience in the domain. If you want to start a coffee shop, have you ever worked in a coffee shop? Have you ever owned a coffee shop before, per se? Cash down payment. Usually you have to come up with some cash as a down payment, similar to maybe a home. Where's your product? How mature is it? Really big thing is your personal credit, because you're going to have to personally guarantee any startup loan. Most commercial loans have to be commercial guaranteed, personally guaranteed. And then that comes with collateral too. So if there's no collateral in the business, which typically there are not in startups, they're going to look at your personal collateral. So if you've got a 401k, if you got home equity, anything like that, they're going to ask you to pledge that that as collateral. And then they're going to look at the business plan quality. Can you write it down? Can you communicate it? Do you have a viable business plan with financial projections? And then the other thing is, industry sector appetite. Bankers are like other investors per se. They have portfolios, and they like to keep their portfolios either balanced or weighted towards certain sectors. And, it could be that they've got enough coffee shops, right? They're looking for green energy, or they're looking for maybe some bioscience. So they've got a portfolio, and even though you might qualify, you've got to kind of fit into the terms, so it fit into their portfolio at the need at the time. So that's kind of about debt. And let's just talk about equity and a little bit about grants. So typically, when we go through this progression, the first investment that is made is yourself, and you got to put something into this business that's relative to your means per se. You've got to have something in, and then we joke, and what's the second investment? Oh, it's yourself. So it's really important that as a small business owner, you are able to put some money in, or have something available to put into this business. Then we come to the pre-seed stage. So this is a whole group of different opportunities. Once you've got it started, you got a little bit of money in, you got your business plan going, maybe you're working on your prototype. You can go to some friends and family, which are people that you know and love, or know and love you, public sources, AIC, Innovation Challenge, Arizona Innovation Challenge. It's a public source, a competition for some funding. Example, crowdfunding, either gift-based or equity-based. Accelerators will take early stage companies, provide a cash injection for some equity, and provide some services to move you along. And then there's these things called grants, SBIRs, in particular, are available to companies who are very early stage, and earlier than these other ones that we're going to talk about, right? So after you've got your pre-seed round, or you got some funding going, at that point you can talk to angel investors or local venture funds. They're kind of one and the same for the sake of this presentation. But really, if you haven't invested yourself, you don't have any other kind of money in from friends and family, or a grant or something, you're probably way too early to talk to an angel investor. So after angel investors, you can hand up potentially corporate venture, which is a corporation making an investment, a large corporation. They do this on a regular basis, or even venture capital at some point, right? A VC firm. And there's a big difference between VC and angels. They're way upstream. Way downstream. I'm sorry, and they're looking larger amounts of money, a little bit less risk. Not everybody needs venture capital. Most people don't. And then you get things like IPO, private equity, etc. So this is kind of the progression. And I just wanted to show this because this is kind of where the SBIRs fit. And the thing that you take away is it's early money. It's money that would be invested in a company, or not invested, provided to a company before any of these others will. And that's kind of the secret sauce from my perspective. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why investors like SBIRs, right? So if you got your SBIR down here and now you're moving up to talk to investors, why do they like it? And I capitalize like, I'll get to that in a second. They like it because it's early capital injection, right? What does early capital injection do? It de-risks the investment, and it's non-dilutive. Non-dilutive means nobody owns it. SBIRs, as Bob will go through, there's no equity taken from the government, so it is purely a grant and or a contract. There is a level of validation, right? These are competitive grants, so you get peer reviews like myself, they and other domain experts, depending in the technology. And there's a level of scientific vetting that goes on in order to win an award, an SBIR award. There's also a level of commercialization vetting. Is this a viable business? Do you have a good business plan per se? And we're going to talk in depth about commercialization. So there is a level of validation. So all these good things is why the investors like it. However, the reason they don't love it, and I could say love up here, is simply receiving a grant, an SBIR grant, does not necessarily mean the company is a good investment from an angel investor or a venture fund. There's lots more that needs to happen to really to make your company attractive. So while they like it and it's good, it's never really bad unless you get too much of it. And maybe we could talk a little bit about that during the commercialization section. It doesn't mean people are going to start throwing money at you just because you won an SBIR phase one, even a phase two to a certain extent. So, okay, I'm going to hand this over to Bob. It looks like I've got something in the chat. Oh, Karen, any questions on this intro? We're going to go into the meat of the SBIR program right now. So anything from me up front? I will stop sharing. And here's Bob.
Okay. And let me get my PowerPoint going here. So as Lou said, my name's Bob Mucci, and I work for what used to be called Arizona PTAC. That stood for Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, and we're now called Apex Accelerators. If you see someplace in my PowerPoint where it says PTAC, it's because I didn't change it, and I'll probably get yelled at it by my boss, but for not changing it. But at any rate, let's see here. So, like Blue did, he did an introduction. I've been doing PTAC and Apex Accelerator work for probably the last 5 years. I've had some really very significant successes in the SBIR world. My clients have received over about $8.5 million in SBIR awards. Just recently, I had a client get about a $1.8 million award from NASA. So, I've been pretty successful, but had some clients that have also failed in their applications. So let's talk a little bit about SBIRs. What is an SBIR? Well, one place where you can go and get a lot of information about SBIRs is at www.sbir.gov, which is the SBIR site that is the American Seed Fund site. And if you want more information about SBIRs, I would really recommend that you start here to start doing your due diligence, because applying for an SBIR is not the most difficult process, but on the other hand, it's not the easiest process. And you really should spend your time, doing your due diligence and looking at whether this is right for you. So let's talk a little bit about SBIRs versus STTRs. What is an SBIR? SBIR stands for Small Business Innovative Research Program. It is the program that, is run by various agencies. The purpose of an SBIR is to stimulate technological innovation by investing in research and development. Research and development is a really key part of SBIRs. We'll talk a little bit more about those a little bit later on. It may or may not require a business to be involved with an institute of higher education. A lot of times SBIRs are directly to a business. However, a lot of times businesses will involve an institute of higher education to strengthen their application and to fill in certain portions of their application where they may be subcontracting or consulting out a portion of their application to the Institute of Higher Education. It is agency specific. SBIRs come from specific agencies. There's just not like a giant SBIR world out there. You know, you've got to look at the agency that you're going to be applying to. Now, STTRs stand for Small Business Technology Transfer. And with STTRs, and the other thing too, is that there are more dollars in the SBIR world than in the STTR world. STTRs are a smaller funding process. STTRs are awards that are made to businesses that pursue technology innovation through cooperative research with a nonprofit scientific and educational research institution. You must have that to apply for an STTR. And there's certain percentages of the work that needs to be done by, you know, both the private side business and, you know, your nonprofit, nonprofit scientific and educational or research institution. And that is, you know, defined in the solicitation of the STTR. So where do you find, you know, STTRs? Let me talk a little bit about SBIRs and STTRs. SBIRs and STTRs are topic specific, and they are specific, you know, to a sponsoring agency. And by topic specific, I mean they are looking for a solution to a problem that they have. You may have, you know, the best widget in the world, but if you can't find a topic that's looking for that widget, you know, you cannot apply for your SBIR or STTRs, with a couple of exceptions that I'll talk about. So where do you find, topics? Well, a solicitation can be listed on sam.gov or grants.gov. Sam.gov is where the government lists actually everything that they're going to buy, and you know they will list oftentimes their SBIRs, and they'll also be listed on grants.gov. So there's a variety of places that you have to do research to find out whether there is a topic that might be open for you. Agencies can do what's also called a broad agency announcement, a BAA. And most of the times those are listed on sam.gov, or if it's a Department of Defense SBIR, it's listed on the DSIP portal. So, you know, there's a whole variety of places where you can find topics that, you know, an agency is looking for a solution for. There's also open topic grants on grants.gov, DSIP, and SAM. Now, an open topic means that there is not a specific topic that an agency is looking for. And the reason why open topics, you know, were created is that, for instance, the Air Force, and we'll talk about Air Force Works a little further down in my presentation, realized that there may be people out there that have really cool stuff that they don't know about that may have a lot of applicability to the Air Force. So they have an open topic where they say, tell us your stuff. And this is becoming a little bit more common with other agencies, as agencies realize that, you know, it's a good idea to look at what, you know, an inventor might have out there and to see if it's applicable, even if it's not a specific topic that they're looking for. Agencies that do SBIRs. There are a whole bunch of agencies out there that do SBIRs. Virtually every single federal government agency that receives a certain level of funding has to have an SBIR program. And the size of that SBIR program depends on how much money the agency gets funded. And it should be no surprise to anybody that the agency with the biggest SBIR program is the Department of Defense. They are sort of the giant gorilla in the cage. They have the biggest SBIR program under a whole variety of different agencies that fit under DoD. The next two largest programs are with NSF, National Science Foundation, and the National Institute of Health. And then we start looking at lower levels of SBIR funding as, an agency gets smaller and gets less funding from Congress. Like I said before, for SBIR applications, they can be problem or topic specific or broad in nature, and it depends on the agency and their requirements. The other agency that has what I would call sort of a very, very broad topic area is National Science Foundation. And I've listed most of the topic areas these are actually program areas that have subtopics underneath the program areas. And there are some new program areas that have come out that relate directly to green energy, and I haven't listed them here. So what you would do for the National Science Foundation is you go on their website, you look at, a program area that you fit underneath, and you find the specific topics that they're looking for applicants to, turn in an application for. And you can see here, there's a lot of different program areas. National Science Foundation is one of those areas where you can find a topic that may suit you, whereas, the Department of Defense may have a specific topic area that, or a series of topic areas that you can't apply for. Air Force Works. Air Force Works, AFWERX, is an SBIR area that, came into being about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And like I said, it is where the Air Force realized that individuals may have a topic that isn't specific to a topic that they're looking for, but it may be something that they would be interested in. And there's a specific way that you apply. We'll talk about how you apply for SBIRs in a second. So, you got to kind of look at what it is you're doing. Does it fit a topic area, or does it fit under, an open topic area? How you apply. So how you apply really depends upon the agency that you're looking at, turning in an application for. And I have to tell you, there is absolutely no commonality between these agencies. Some may use grants.gov. With the Department of Defense, there's a specific way that you apply on the DSIP portal. The Department of Energy has their own application process. NSF has their own application process. And there are a lot of different nuances with these application processes. And I've done applications for underneath all of these application portals. But they can be really very complex, and you should really, if you're going to apply for an SBIR, start looking at the actual mechanism for application fairly early in, your process. You need to review the solicitation. That's really very important. And for the different agencies, the application process will be written in the solicitation. For instance, National Science Foundation requires a project pitch. And they have a specific template that you fill out. You turn in your project pitch. If they like you, they'll send you an invitation for a full application. And if they don't like you, you can't apply. It's as simple as that. So you have to get over the hurdle of having them accept your project pitch. Air Force Works requires a project pitch and a slide deck as part of their application. DOE may require a concept paper or a white paper or a project pitch, depending on the solicitation you're applying for. And NIH may require a white paper that is sent to the topic or program manager. DoD and all others, the initial requirements are going to be in the solicitation. So let's talk a little bit about time. If you're going to apply for an SBIR, start looking at putting one together or reviewing the solicitation early. The average time to draft a proposal for an SBIR varies between 200 to 300 hours. This is not something that you can start 2 weeks before the deadline for applying. You should start very, very early. I actually recommend to my clients that if they're going to apply for an SBIR, they start the process at least a minimum of 4 months before they intend to apply. And due dates are closer than they appear. I've had clients that have started an SBIR and all of a sudden they realize that, they're 2 weeks away from the due date and they're not nearly done. So really plan to start early. I would even encourage somebody that's going to apply to start 6 months in advance. So how do you start? Well, you read the solicitation. And then when you're done, you read the solicitation again. And then when you're done, you read the solicitation a third time. Now, I'm really very old school. I recommend that if you're going to apply for an SBIR, you print the solicitation, even if it's, 200 pages. You print it and then you sit there with a magic marker and you go through and you highlight the important parts. Solicitations are really very, very important because the devil is in the details, and you want to make sure don't miss a detail. A lot of times, particularly with NSF, they have breadcrumbs in the solicitation, and I call them breadcrumbs because what they do is they tell you what's important. They tell you the keywords that you need to be looking at, and keywords are really important. If I review an application for a client, I'll actually do a keyword search to see if a client has enough keywords in there, because keywords are important. So that's why I say print the solicitation, read it, sit there with the magic marker so you don't miss one of the details. The other thing I'm going to tell you is SBIRs are a competition. You are competing against thousands of applicants, and your application is usually reviewed by peers. You may have a great idea, but then again, so does every other applicant. And you've got to, put together an application that makes you stand out from other applicants. I mean, this is like the, picture says, it's a foot race, and you want to be, the applicant that at the end of the race is in the lead. So start early. Evaluations. Your application is evaluated by a group of peers, and it's a tough evaluation process. NSF denies 90% of the applicants. Their success rate is 10%, and that's really pretty normal for SBIRs. So you can see, you have a fairly tough road in front of you to make your application stand out from everybody else. And each agency has its own evaluation criteria. NSF has what I call, the holy grail, the 4 points that are important to them. The first is what you're proposing involving significant R&D technology? Because that's what NSF wants. They want research and development. And is your innovation unique and defensible? Do you have an aggressive commercialization plan? And do you have a significant understanding of the market and the customer? Oftentimes, I'll look at somebody's proposal, and it's wonderful. There's wonderful technology that's described there. And then we get to the commercialization plan, and it's 1 page. And I have to tell my clients that you're not going to get approved. I know you're not going to get approved because you have a very, very weak commercialization plan. And part of the SBIR process is to give you money to get you to the point where you develop your widget, produce your widget, and then you commercialize it. I mean, that's the whole point of SBIRs. They want to get companies to the point where what they have is commercially viable. And then the company, can grow and thrive. For DoD, the things that are important is, are you dealing with their specific topic? And is there a dual use? In other words, if you're designing something that can be used by the Air Force on their, jets, can it be used by Boeing or Lockheed in the commercial world? And the other thing for DoD is, how does it benefit DoD? Because that's the whole purpose. DoD may be your end customer for your SBIRs. And for NIH, the important, part of their review criteria is, are you connected to a research institution? I found in the past that NIH applications that do not have a component where, you're dealing with a research institution usually do not get approved. So, for NIH, even if you're doing an SBIR as opposed to an STTR, you really should still be looking at, whether you have a research institution involved. Talk real quick about what SBIRs mean. Phase 1 of all SBIRs are your proof of concept, your POC. And what is important is that what you're doing is innovative, not evolutionary. They want, the SBIR, when you're doing an SBIR, it needs to be significantly different than what already exists. It can't really be an improvement on what's already out there. And it has to have a high degree of risk or failure because you're pushing beyond present technology. I mean, that's real important for NSF. NSF, wants to know that if they don't fund you, you're probably not going to be successful. And are you working on a whole new product, technology, or process? Now, the thing about phase 1 SBIRs is if you do get awarded a phase 1 SBIR, it's usually a short time frame, 6 months to a year to tops, for you to prove your concept. What is not acceptable are system studies, market research, commercial development of existing products of concept, or evolution of existing products or applications. And if you get a phase 1, you're not done. That's just the beginning of the process, because once you get a phase 1, then you have to apply for a phase 2. Like I said, phase 1 is, when I say, holy guacamole, I think this thing works. Now what do I do? Well, you have to apply again for a phase 2. And phase 2 funding is for a grantee to take the POC and then work on making it commercially available. And just because you got a phase 1 does not mean that you will get a phase 2. Phase 2s are, how do you build and manufacture your magic nuclear blaster decoder ring that can make ice and brew a cup of coffee all at once? And the thing about phase 2s is phase 2 is honestly where the money's at. Usually for phase 1s, it can be anywhere from $150,000 reward up to the max that I've seen is $750,000. Phase 2 awards can be anywhere from $1 million to $2.5 million. So phase 2 funding is really very, very significant. And I also tell clients the day that you start your phase 2 application is the day that you get your phase 1 award. Start thinking in advance and start putting together your phase 2 application. Let me go back for a second. Let me see if I can go back here. I might not be able to. But also I wanted to talk about phase 3. Phase 3 is a non-funded award. I mean, phase 3 SBIRs are where you're going out and you're looking for commercial participation to get your product to the point where it's commercially available. For some SBIR awardees, they call it the SBIR Valley of Death, because if you can't get that funding, then you can't really make your product commercially available. And that's what you want to do. You're always pointing towards taking the phase 1 and phase 2 money and allowing you to use that money to go ahead and get to the commercialization phase, because that's the goal. As I've said, this is not the easiest process in the world, and you should start early. And there are a lot of online tutorials. A lot of those are at sbir.gov. There are, at the last time I looked, 55 courses, including agency overviews, program basic, data rights, and IB protection. And so I would spend some time going through these online tutorials before you jump into the application process. I think that that's really very important. resources. There are a lot of resources out there. Like I said, there's, SBIR.gov, Lou, who is an SBDC advisor. And incidentally, Lou and I work very well together on solicitation applications. Oftentimes we'll, bounce different, solicitations off each other to go ahead and get, the viewpoint of each other on that solicitation. I'm an Apex advisor. Arizona Commerce Authority is a great place to, start doing some research. And Jada will be talking about their FAST grant program in a second. There are consultants out there. There's a lot of consultants out there that will assist you, but, they do it for a fee. And some of them are very good. Some of them are sometimes not that good. University resources. The U of A has the Center for Innovation. Arizona State has really good resources. And another untapped resource that people tend to ignore is past SBIR, STTR winners. You can see who in the state has gotten an award, and a lot of times they may be, or not a lot of times, but often they may be, willing to talk to you about what it is they did that got them an award. So I would reach out to, past SBIR and STTR winners. And this is our contact information. We are just like the SBDC. All of our consulting work is at no cost to our clients and is also confidential. And even though I'm not on there, what I wanted to say is that, you can go ahead and contact me or get access to me through the website down in the bottom. And excuse the barking in the background. We've got a new puppy, and it seems to be having a puppy moment. And, the way that you would become a client of Arizona, of Apex Accelerators is we have a form on our website that says request an appointment. You fill that form out, and, for SBIRs, you would come to me, or you may go to our new consultant down in Pima Community College, Chris Bridgewater, who also has SBIR background. So that's how you would get access to our services. I think that's about all that I have for now. Do we have any questions, Karen?
We do not have any questions in the chat. I would like to remind everyone to put your questions in the chat. If you can't do that, please email me, but I think that there should be no problems with that. But yes, no questions at this time.
Alrighty.
I guess, Jada, you're up.
Okay, perfect. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so my name is Jada Wendling. I'm the research program coordinator at the Arizona Commerce Authority. I'm going to try to keep it pretty sweet and short today, just because Bob has already provided a lot of great information, so has Lou, about the SBIR programs. I'm primarily going to be talking today about the FAST program. So what exactly is the FAST program? It is Arizona's federal and state technology partnership program. The Small Business Administration, or SBA, has chosen several locations across United States to be recipients of FAST in order to provide outreach, technical assistance, and financial support to small businesses looking to obtain an SBIR or STTR. So what are these three pillars and why are they important to us? Outreach is super important when it comes to SBIR, STTR. We want to do our best to make sure companies know about these programs, know if they're qualified, and then are able to connect with those who have either received awards or know a lot about the awards to help them grow in this space. In order to do that, the Arizona Commerce Authority offers in-person events. We have one coming up next month with Lockheed Martin to really focus on that phase 3 of commercialization, as well as just offering letters of support. Because as Bob mentioned, writing a proposal, going through the application process for an SBIR is very time consuming and also requires a lot of support from your community. And so in-person events is just one way of how we do that. We also offer webinars, workshops, and then we have a content library on the Arizona Commerce Authority website under the SBIR SCTR page that has a lot of great information about more of the basics of the program to get you started. Now, technical assistance, we truly believe that it takes an entire ecosystem to really put together an SBIR SCTR and be really knowledgeable about the program. So in order to do this, we make sure that we can connect you to consultants. As Bob mentioned, a lot of these consultants do charge, but sometimes you may need that extra little boost in order to make sure you have the formatting right on your proposal, or really, hone in on that commercialization piece. In the same kind of thread, we have access to grant writers. We can help connect you to people throughout Arizona that can really support your grant journey. We also are really focused on connecting with the universities. We have 3 really great public universities here in Arizona, and as Bob mentioned, all 3 of these universities have programs for small businesses. It's University of Arizona Center for Innovation. Arizona State has several incubator programs, as well as SkySong. And Northern Arizona University has their NACET program, which is the part of Moonshot, another really cool program to help small businesses both in their SBIR and just their journey as they grow into a more developed business. Additionally, a lot of SBIR SCTR has to do with research and development, and it can be very costly. Sometimes you don't have the right access to equipment in order to further that in the way you need. So we place a lot of emphasis on connecting you with lab facilities, whether that be at a university or elsewhere. Maybe it's another company that has access to those that you don't quite have yet. Now, as everyone has mentioned so far, SBIR and STTR is both time consuming and can be a little costly if you're hiring consultants to help you out. So in order to support financially, the Arizona Commerce Authority offers two grants, and both of these are offered through the FAST program that was given to the Arizona Commerce Authority by the Small Business Administration. The 2 main grants we offer through the FAST grant is the Arizona FAST grant, which is different from the overall FAST, but I'll get into a little bit more detail on this on the next slide. And then next grant we offer is the Tech Connect grant, which helps companies get to the SBIR National Conference in Washington, D.C. that occurs every June. Lastly, this isn't part of the FAST program, but I did want to mention it. The Arizona Commerce Authority does have another grant. It's called the Advanced Manufacturing Facilities Grant for companies that are working in the semiconductor space. We do a matching grant with your lab facilities costs. So back to the AZ FAST grant, exactly what is it and who qualifies? Arizona FAST grant is for Arizona small businesses with a strong understanding, keyword strong understanding, of small business innovation research and small business technology transfer. It is for companies that are looking to obtain an SBIR or going through the application process. Maybe they need help getting samples for their research, or they need that extra assistance with a consultant and would like some funds to help out with those costs. It is a $3,000 grant towards SBIR SCTR applications. We offer this grant 3 times per year, about 3 times a year, and it goes to 18 companies every year. You can apply online at azcommerce.com/FAST program. The application page is here on the screen, and it's actually open right now through October 2nd, which is super convenient. Again, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. Main things here, it's for small businesses who already have an understanding, who have done their research on the program, and are ready to take that next step and submit an application. What is the application content exactly for the Arizona FAST? As the Arizona Commerce Authority, we really want to know who is your company, have a good understanding of what you're trying to do, what makes your innovation novel, and what exactly your innovation is. And then also, we have to decide, is your company prepared for an SBIR or SCTR application? Have you done your research? Have you spoken with other organizations, or do you have partners who are working on this? Are you prepared to go through the process of submitting an application? And that's really important, because if you haven't done your work and we're giving you this money and you still need to do a lot of work, it might not make the best sense. So those are the 2 main things that we look for on an application. Some important reminders when it comes to the FAST grant and the Tech Connect grant as well. $3,000 will not cover all the costs associated with an application. Again, going back to what Bob said, it's well over 100 hours to submit an application. $3,000 simply does not cover that cost. Additionally, the AZ FAST grant is not free money. We do we actually require that you show your proof of use of these funds. Are they going towards a consultant? Have you bought lab space to help, etc.? And lastly, this goes for the SBIR grant as well as the FAST grant and then STTR, of course. The result of an application does not determine the success of your company. That 10% of winners who get an SBIR or STTR grant, it doesn't mean the other 90% have bad ideas and they're not going to be successful. That's just absolutely not the case. It's the same with FAST. On average, it takes companies 3 tries to win a FAST grant. It really is just a super competitive ecosystem, and sometimes it doesn't always work out in your favor the first time. Now I'm going to be really quick here. I know we've already talked a lot about resources. At the Arizona Commerce Authority, we really believe in SBIR.gov and everything that SBIR.gov has to offer, including the tutorials, the award reports, the agency contacts, reaching out to those agencies to find out what they're interested in and what their solicitations might be in the future can be very valuable. Arizona Commerce Authority has a content library. The SBDCs are amazing. Amazing places to start, especially with Lou Farina, who's excellent at what he does. Other resources, Apex, Bob Mucci, universities, our events, Arizona Technology Council events, and so much more. There really is a huge ecosystem here in Arizona for SBIR and STTR. Lastly, final thoughts here. There are a lot of helpful resources. There are a lot of consultants, programs, grants, incubators, a lot to help you out here. I believe if you scan this QR code, it takes you to a contact page. If you have questions, you're welcome to fill that out. And it will send it directly to my team here at the Arizona Commerce Authority. We can help you out as best as we can, whether that's answering your immediate questions or finding someone who can answer those questions for you. So I just want to say a big thanks to the SBDC, Lou, and then also Bob for sharing so much wonderful information today. I am going to end it here. All right.
All right. Hey, thank you, Jada. That was very informative. Again, thank you, Bob. I think we've got 8 minutes on the clock, but could we go over, Karen, if we had to?
That's fine.
Yeah, I won't be that long. We're going to talk about commercialization. I'm sorry. Questions, Karen?
No questions.
Okay. Anything for me before I start for the next section?
No, but I would like to remind everyone that this recording will be on our website by the end of day tomorrow, so you can access it anytime you'd like.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Okay, let me see. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share this one, but I'm going to hang on. Can everybody see that? I'm taking that as a yes. Okay. So great content, and, just kind of extending off of one of Bob's really important points, and he said it multiple times, SBIR, STTR are project driven. They're really projects. However, it's really about a project that helps you start your business. So there's a business component here, and that's what kind of separates these grants from other, I would call discovery kind of grants that maybe these agencies provide to academia. So yeah, there's a business component here, and quite often the folks that are applying are coming out of a technical field. They may be coming out of the university with some great technology, and they may not be really strong on the business side, and that's okay, right? No one expects you to be an expert in business as well. But the point is, there's things to pay attention to, but get some help in that area if you can, whether it's the SBDC or any of the other resources that Jada pointed out or Bob pointed out. So This is an area, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to know it sooner or later. But it's important. It forces you, if you're going to go for an SBIR, to provide some level of expertise demonstrated on business and the commercialization plan. So I'm going to talk about commercialization plan, how it kind of fits into the scheme of things. So, commercialization plan is a very generic term. Depending on the agency, it could be commercialization strategy, it could be commercial opportunity, it could be, I've seen it a potential post application. So there's different requirements, different terminology, but it's really some common themes. And I'll point out the differences between kind of the granting agencies and the contracting agencies, and dual use. We'll talk about that. But and dual use, here we go. So for the Department of Defense and some of these contracting agencies who could become a customer, who could buy your product, they like to talk about dual use. And Bob brought this up. What does this fulfill a commercial need as well? So why would they want that? Why would they want that story? Well, it spreads the development cost over the entire enterprise, right? You got your government side, and then you've got your commercial side. Just basic economics. There's lower unit pricing due to volume and supply chain efficiencies, right? You're buying more. There's more product, there's common components. Price goes down to the commercial customer, goes down to the government customer. And it's more attractive for private capital. If you have just an invention that's going to solely be sold to the Department of Defense for a single narrow application, it's going to be really hard to attract private capital. And again, it's spreading the capital infusion over the commercial and the government side. So from a government's perspective, if you can attract matching private capital to the government funds, that becomes much more attractive, just as an enterprise. So dual purpose is important. It's more important to some than others, but it's really kind of in the solicitation. So what is a commercialization plan? I could easily say I can call this a business plan, to a certain extent. It gauges the economic potential. NSF for instance, is looking for what's the impact it's going to have on society, not only just changing the way we do things, but revenue, jobs, taxes, right? How big is this business? How big can it be? It is the opportunity for you to describe your business strategy and how you're going to get revenue from the proposed projects, right? These are projects, but let's talk about your business model. Let's talk about generating revenue. It's a roadmap for the future. How are you going to generate profits from your innovation? And it really, as I said, it's the genesis of a business plan, begins to look like an investor pitch, a lot of common elements. So if you've got a business plan, if you've got an investor pitch that you've worked on and you've thought about, a lot of that content we can repurpose and reuse in the commercialization sections. So why is it important? I think I'll kind of repeat myself a little bit. Right? These are not classic research grants. They're geared towards economic impact, business creation. Very much it shifts the paradigm for research-oriented applicants. Again, we see a lot of folks coming out of universities, although it's not necessary. They're very research-focused. They got something really cool, but this helps shift the paradigm. It's a forcing function to say, okay, look, the technology, but let's talk about the business side. And quite frankly, just real practically, it's significant weight in the application scoring for many of the agencies. So I'm going to run through, I got 5 or 6 themes, and this isn't, I'm not going to talk about any one particular agency and I'll give you some examples maybe at the end, but this is just things to think about when you're writing the commercialization section, whatever it is. So there's a language there's a language to entrepreneurship. So use the vernacular. You may not know the vernacular, but find somebody who does. And, I quite often when I review, and my strength is more on the commercialization side, I will help my clients do, some word substitution, insert the right vernacular that describe startups and in the process. So you've got things like cash flow and scalability, traction, product market fit, these business model, all these kind of terms that we use. The next thing is discovery and validation. For those, there are, if you're coming out of a research institution, you might be exposed to I-Corps. And I-Corps is a program, it's an entrepreneurial program, but what it does is forces you to get out of, we call it get out of the building, get out of your comfort zone and start talking to people. Be surprised how many folks will develop technology, but really never talk to anybody outside their department or their school. And so we go out and we call it discovery and validation. Who have you talked to, whether it be a potential customer, a potential partner, anybody that could procure this product or solves a problem. Becomes a whole body of discovery, and there's a process to it, and describing that. And if you've gone through I-Corps, you've got it and you describe it. But if you haven't, you got to do it to a certain extent and put it on paper. Really important. It'll ask you, most of the applications ask you for your team and your advisors. And the team is fairly easy. The board of advisors is a little bit tricky. And, there's a lot of power in having a board of advisors. The advisors can have informal and often do have informal relationships with your company. And so these are folks that you go to for things that you don't know. And they could be specialists in your domain, but quite often they're outside of your domain. It may be a marketing person, it may be a legal person. And so what this demonstrates is not what you know, but the fact that you don't know things, and you have the ability to go out and form these relationships. Because that's, as an entrepreneur, what you know. Everybody starts from someplace. You got to acquire knowledge. You got to acquire other folks to be able to help you move forward. And this is really, really important. Let's see. Business and revenue model. So I borrowed this cartoon from Steve Blank. But it's, it's really a simple, it's a complicated model, but it's like, oops, sorry. I'm sorry. I think, okay, computers, calm down. Hang on 1 second. I'm sorry. My computer's mouse decided to do its own thing. I'm not sure what's going on here, Karen. So revenue model, let's try this again. It's flipping the slides for me. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's try this. Okay, you can probably see my whole desktop. Karen?
I said, are you okay? Do you need me to share it instead?
No, I think I went out of slideshow mode for some reason, and it decided it was going to advance my slides, but can you see this now?
Yes.
Yeah, let's just use this. And we'll finish up here. We're getting close. So, revenue model goes very, very simply. How are you going to what problem you're solving? Who's going to give you money for what? Is it a product sale? Is it a subscription-based model? What's your revenue model? What's your business model? Lots of different ways, but you've got to define it. And if you can't define it, then you really can't define it as a business. Measure the market size, right? We talk about impact. If it's a bigger market, it has the potential of being a bigger impact. If it's a small market, it's got potential of being a very small impact. So we like to measure market size, and we do that. We can do it a couple ways. The best way to do it for an SBIR is citing some market research. And, matter of fact, at the SBDC, we have some free market research that you can tap into. So some third-party market research to help validate the market size of the opportunity. Know what your competition is doing. There'll be a section on competition always. Saying you have no competition is kind of the death knell. There's always competition. People are always solving the problem in a certain way. And so to be able to describe that is really important. If you don't, either you haven't done your homework or you're seem to be just maybe not as aware as you could be. So competition is very important. So those are the themes, and we'll talk more about it. Oh, there's one more. I'm sorry. Investment, because it'll ask you in the commercialization section. The government being the funding agencies, do not believe that they're going to be the sole capital source for you to create a business. They fully expect at some point you're going to have to acquire some other type of capital infusion. A lot of time, early stage is going to be an equity infusion, and being able to describe that landscape, knowing the difference between an angel investor and a venture capitalist is really important, right? A lot of folks say we're going to go right to a venture capital firm and raise $10 million after we get our SBIR. Well, that's not really practical, right? So you got to talk to somebody in this space who knows this space, or maybe you do know this space, but it's important to describe it. Okay, so let's see. Commercialization plan. Let's see. Oh, so this is the different agencies, what they're called, and the length of it. For phase one, they're kind of short, like the NSF is the longest, 2 to 4 pages. But other ones, there's a DOE has a 2-pager, DOD has a 1-pager. And so with the constraint, I just went through a lot. You got to be really efficient with how you write this. And they give you, like Bob said, they'll give you some breadcrumbs in there. They'll talk about certain things they want to see. So just read that solicitation, know what they want in their commercialization plan, and then work with somebody who can help edit it down to the required length. And then just an example, phase 2 commercialization plan for NSF, that's 15 pages. Okay, so once you start to get to a phase 2, this starts to look like a business plan. 15 pages, pretty significant. You got to describe the market opportunity, the company, the team, the product, technology, competition from a customer perspective. You've got to put pro formas together for 5 years, which includes 2 years of the phase 2 effort, plus another 3 years post phase 2. So 3 years of commercialization. So this gets more involved. But by the time you're done with your phase 1, or you're getting through your phase 1, you should, be working with somebody to really think about this as a business. So if you're just going to work on a project, and you're not really advancing it as a business and all the other things you have to do, you're probably going to have a hard time getting a phase 2 and or any other equity funding. So I am done for today. Thank you very much, everybody. Any questions? Our panelists are still on, and we're here to answer. Anything, Karen?
It looks like there are no questions.
All right. So the thing I'll leave you with is we're here as resources. Hard to go through this process alone. Reach out to any or all of us and or other resources that we've given you, and we want to see you be successful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lou. Don't forget that this webinar will be on our website by end of day tomorrow. You can reach out to any of the panelists with any questions that you may have, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Lou. Jada.
Thank you.